Hello everyone, it's Niz. I'm making this video to talk in detail of a certain upgrade that I've had problems with for a while. I know, I have a lot of those apparently. Anyway, this time is Triple Banner. Many of my viewers who don't play Knots with me may have thought that I was a rail and one trick. And for a while, you have been correct. I was, at least until good old 2.7.
Today's flavor is Retribution!
Frozen Frontier did a few things that were the catalyst of things that are worth making a video about, but it also made things that were worth making a video about on their own. But to stay somewhat on track, it released the Scoop of Justice, and ever since I've expanded my list of Awesomenauts I play from 1 to 2. To me, Scoop is similar to Ted McPain in levels of design. His backstory and concept well encapsulate the spirit of Awesomenauts. They have a lot of variation in upgrades where although some are far more essential than others, and those will typically be the builds you'll see in higher leagues, they have enough viable upgrades to yield variety. Both characters have simple concepts, but a learning curve to them, although Ted's is notably steeper. Let's go over Banner in its current state. You see, Banner is part of a now endangered species, the fabled 3-staged upgrades. It costs 100 solar per stage, and the effect is that it produces spinning swords around Scoop during the Binding of Justice, which have 60 DPS per stage on base, leading to a 180 total. The damage is 6 ticks of 30 over a full second. Now, with this along with the burst and the ending of Binding of Justice, you'll be dealing 360 damage total with this combo, which, to be frank, a lot of tanks are able to pull off that amount of damage on base with the ability on a lower cooldown and no upgrades. But in Scoop's defense, in this scenario, he still gets the self-heal, but this leads to another problem: scaling. Outside of one other upgrade and levels, Scoop has no further means of increasing the damage of the Bindings of Justice. The aforementioned upgrade, Spoonman, increases the power of all abilities when allies are nearby. If you were getting this just for bindings, you'd be kidding yourself when Scoop's 2 other abilities have a higher consistent damage output and upgrades that make it scale better. For 300 solar, you're more or less doing the damage of the ability of a tank that is considered powerful. If that was their base damage, it had further damage upgrades and a lower cooldown. And the real kicker? You're not going to be able to get that damage off consistently. Let's go deeper into it. Triple Banner adds an extra 180 damage to Binding of Justice. But how does it do this again? Spinning swords dealing 30 damage per 0.166 second, leading to 6 ticks total. Are you with me so far? The issue is that for you to achieve this amount of damage, Scoop has to be beside the opponent while casting his bindings the entire time. Any frames they are out of range risk missing out on a tick. But it's worse than that. If Scoop's not beside the opponent on the very frame it's casted, you'll already be missing out on one of the ticks. And if Scoop's not beside the opponent a few frames after the casting has ended, you'll also miss a tick. Which I'd like to remind you there are 6 total in Banner's effect. Just from not having the opponent within range of the very casting, and briefly after, you'll be missing out on the third of the damage potential, and just like that, 180 becomes 120, and heavens forbid you miss any ticks beyond that. It not only can end up dealing pitiful amounts of damage, but it can affect the way you play Scoop in doing so. You see, Bindings of Justice can be used as a finisher. 180 is not ideal for securing a kill, but with the range it has and the fact that it ignores landscape allows Scoop to turn a close call into a first blood. The fact that there is no feature during casting on base allows Scoop to use it for healing, or for a surprise burst to catch an enemy who may not suspect him or is out of reach. With Triple Banner purchased, you have this sort of obligation in your mind. You shouldn't just try to hit them with the end cast damage because you'll miss out on the 300 solar of hurt you piggy banked into. You can't just use bindings for heal because what if you need to dish out that damage later to turn the tables on an enemy? With the purchase of Banner, I see a lot of Scoops sacrificing quite a bit of freedom for the hopes of doing a bit more damage. But the problem is that Banner is very dependent on Scoop having control over the battle. You see, you have to be able to close the distance on them or have them close to you, then maintain it until binding is complete, without them getting outside or you dying. Only when that criteria is met do you have a shot at getting that sweet mediocre total damage for an ability that leans more on its healing and has one of the longest cooldowns in the game. So I guess that's it, huh? Binding of Justice just isn't up for damage output. It can't be used to drastically turn around a fight, not damage-wise. But that's not true. What if I were to tell you that there was an upgrade that increases your damage output involving Bindings of Justice? What if I were to tell you that upgrade is improved by pretty much every upgrade in the Sword Strike row? What if I were to tell you this upgrade wouldn't further draw to the crisis of using your bindings for the opportune moment to heal or damage? Well, allow me to welcome you to the salvation of Penguin Throne. You know, once upon a time, Penguin Throne and Holy Cup were god-awful upgrades, but now, they're such good choices that just about any build could tack on one or the other, maybe both if you're feeling especially crazy. So Penguin Throne is the second damage option Scoop has for his Bindings of Justice. It gives 50% bonus damage for the next 4 of Scoop's attacks after casting it. To really get into this, we're gonna have to go into yet another layer to briefly talk about Scoop's basic attacks. I could go on for an hour talking about Scoop's Sword Strike, but for the sake of simplicity, I'm going to try to keep it brief. Scoop has 2 forms of attacks that he switches from when he uses one or the other: Slash and Cleave. Slash deals 105 damage and is single target. Cleave deals 60 damage, but hits all targets in range and has a 30% lifesteal effect. They also have slightly different ranges, but the point is, Slash is primarily focused on direct damage on a single opponent, while Cleave is more focused on clear and sustain, and this is reflected in their upgrades. With this, Scoop attacks 2.4 times per second, meaning he'll get a Slash and Cleave in every second. If you round that down to 2 attacks a second, the DPS is 165. It's kinda hard for me to figure out the actual DPS since it's 2 different attacks, but to be more exact, the DPS is 189 if the upcoming 0.4 attack is a Cleave, and it's 207 if it's a Slash, but I'm gonna keep it simple with the aforementioned 165. So, back to Throne. Due to how Throne works, in 4 attacks, you're dealing 100% of Scoop's total damage via Slash and Cleave separately. This yields a ton of benefits, one of which being that this allows the upgrade to become more powerful with any upgrades in Scoop's attack row, not just Spoonman. Sure, you'll be spending more solar to get those benefits, but it also offers convenience. You don't have to use strikes during bindings, at least not anymore. And this allows you to use bindings to heal or to get off an ambushing strike and still have that damage output saved for whoever you attack first. And you can even catch opponents by surprise from your sudden burst of damage because Ronimo forgot to put a visual indicator on Scoop's empowered attacks. Yes, I will admit it's unfortunate that your primary source of damage, the Slash, is single target while Banner pierces, but this also leads to the variety of having Cleave involved. With Cleave's damage empowered, so is its lifesteal effect. And if you're using a sustain heavy Cleave build with Penguin Throne and decide to use bindings when you're particularly low on health, suddenly you're going to be getting a ton of health back. Throne gives you so much more freedom and control when built around versus Banner. Time for the closing statement, and I'll start by saying I think this upgrade is far more niche than it's made out to be. There are points where you're going to need that raw DPS to get more damage on enemies that can't escape or assert dominance against an assassin that can't just kite you but can make up for it in damage. I can tank this. Nope, never mind. But I honestly can't think of places where this becomes more valuable than Penguin Throne, which may be less immediate DPS, but the damage output and upgrades that complement it can't be ignored compared to the amount of solar spent for an upgrade that's unimpressive due to its limitation versus output. This concludes my thoughts on Banner as an upgrade. I hope you all have a good day, and oh, actually, let's do something a little different. Part of me made this video because Lil Wolf talked crap on Banner on stream, as he should, but also Drunk compiled the notes that eventually convinced me to make this video. So, I jot down some questions for Drunk to give his take on Banner before we end the video. Okay, I was having trouble figuring out what was rug and what was headset when I was picking it up, so I think I'm sufficiently drunk enough. Okay, question 1. What do you think of Banner's DPS? Well, the immediate DPS, like I said in the video, is like, it's solid. It's just not enough to really justify a fucking 300 solar purchase. You could buy Lance with that. Buy Lance, guys. I don't see enough of you Scoop mains out there buying Lance. And there's at least enough Scoop mains to make twice the Blightbound population. God, I made myself double sad. What is your opinion on using Banner to clear droids? Don't do that. If you have Banner as Scoop, and like you should be pushing, throw yourself at the turret. Just throw yourself at the turret because somebody with you should be taking damage, doing the turret damage, and you should be tanking it because you're Scoop. You have an absurd amount of healing options in your kit and in your upgrades. Just rub up against the turret. There's nothing stopping you. You're fucking Scoop. Where do you think Banner is superior to basic attacks? Okay, it's a very specific window because Banner's one leading... Okay, so what Banner has as an advantage against Penguin Throne is that... Wait, it's not Penguin Throne. Okay, so what Banner has that's superior to basic attacks is that the immediate DPS is really nice in that you can hit anybody from any angle. So it's really good at fighting flying characters like Ayla. Yeah, I pronounce it as Ayla. Vinny and Yuri. It's very good against flying characters when you can't really hit them from that angle unless you're cleaving, because cleaving hits slightly above you, I think. But Slash doesn't. And I think that's the place where it really shines. But it's really niche. Do you remember Old Banner? Yeah. There were many iterations of Old Banner. Old Banner was solid, but the thing was it was overshadowed by Hammer because Hammer was a fucking god tier attack. Like, it was doing 500 damage or something. Oh, back in the Gelati days. I feel old. God damn. Okay, so there was a point where Banner was just doing 1 billion damage. It was a little expensive, but it was definitely worth it. And now Banner's, I guess, fairly cheap comparatively, but also it doesn't do nearly as much damage. So that's why I keep saying it's not worthwhile anymore. And even back when it was, I still advocated for Frost Queen because, well, Ice Queen, because Frost Queen's fucking League of Legends. Ice Queen because that immediate damage meant that you had the convenience of sneaking up on people. You could do a sneaky on them. If you could replace Banner, would you, and with what? Maybe. I'm not sure what I would replace it with, because, God, I don't even... Scoop is in a pretty good place, honestly. But if I were to replace Banner... God. Who isn't in a good place? Nah, I guess? Shout out to the Nah mains out there. You guys are kind of cool. But... where was I? If I were to replace it, I think I'd replace it with the old banner just before Deadlift released, where it was just, you got a fuck ton, like a ton of damage resistance while Banner was active, and I would just throw myself at Nibs mains and sentries all the time. All the Nibs mains except for Morrow, you homunculus, using AA instead of Fire Breath for damage. But, like, the point was, you would resist so much damage, which was ridiculous as a character that could already sustain through every single ability in his kit. It was hilarious. Oh, it was such a good patch. I miss it. But that's sort of a selfish thing, I guess. That's not really a balanced thing. That's just more of what I would want for like a week before everybody started playing Scoop, because it's like the Broke Star update. Yeah, I guess I wouldn't change Banner, actually. Maybe adjust the damage? Or maybe adjust the ticks? But other than that, it's not a bad concept. It's just bad numbers. Can you tell our audience to have a nice day and be safe? Why, yes, I can. I hope you have a nice day and be safe. Yeah, I can do that while drunk. Fear me.